This is 5 on your side at 6. Focused on you.
A new lawsuit threatens to cut off $500 monthly payments to hundreds of families in St. Louis. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Bush.
And I'm Ann Allred. St. Louis launched the Guaranteed Basic Income pilot program last year. Our political editor, Mark Maxwell, is here with new details about a lawsuit challenging it. Mark.
Dozens of cities across the country have launched pilot programs like this, testing this idea of giving a little bit of free money to families who don't make a whole lot. But here, lawyers who just defeated the city in another major fiscal case now argue the state constitution and city charter ban giving out public funds to people who didn't earn them.
The Constitution of Missouri and the city of St. Louis's charter documents and ordinances prevent just giving money to somebody for no reason.
Attorney Beavis Schock worked alongside the Holy Joe Society to challenge St. Louis's Guaranteed Basic Income program. Mayor Tashara Jones' office doesn't comment on pending litigation, but last fall, she promoted the idea as a way to help people living in or near poverty get by.
Families that receive guaranteed basic income are able to care for their children in better ways.
More than 5,000 families initially applied. 540 families would win that $500 monthly benefit. To qualify, they had to make less than 170% of the federal poverty line and have children enrolled in city public or charter schools.
That violates the First Amendment freedom of religion. In other words, you can't say because you're religious you can't have a government money.
Schock says they won't need to make that argument in court, just highlight the prohibition on giving public funds to private citizens who didn't earn it.
These are federal funds that came with federal rules, and the federal rules do allow this.
So that's a great question. So if the city is doing it and it's against the city's own charter and against the Constitution of the state, can it still be done? I don't think it can.
I think the program is awesome.
That's Ann Smith, a single mother of 3, who told 5 on Your Side last fall she was hoping to qualify.
I would love to apply for it because I'm new to the area and I need all the support that I can get.
You're an individual. You have responsibility for yourself and your children. The government's not responsible for any individual and their children. Each person is responsible for him or herself.
Schock said he's not pushing to try and claw back any of those funds that have already been doled out over these last 6 or 7 months. He is asking a judge to stop sending those payments going forward. The city has until next Friday to respond in court.
A St. Louis County mom is suing a daycare center in North St. Louis County for abuse and neglect. She says her 2 children suffered physical, emotional, and mental injuries. Our Justina Cornell spoke to the family's attorney and learned more about this case, and she is in studio now with new information. Justina?
Mike, the daycare is called A Brighter Future Child Care and Development Center on Chambers Road in North St. Louis County, and it's had its license since 2021. Now, Diana Harold Page is suing the child care facility. She wants justice for her 4-year-old son who has autism and her 3-year-old little girl.
She's very strong. She was able to start to spearhead this, to initiate this, and keep it going.
Attorney Chris Finney represents Diana Harold Page. The mom of 2 is filing a lawsuit against A Brighter Future Child Care and Development Center in North St. Louis County.
So the allegations are contained in our petition, and it has to do with neglect and abuse.
In March, Harold Page says her worst nightmare became her reality. She picked up her kids from the daycare and noticed her 4-year-old son, who has autism and is nonverbal, had facial scratches and a bump on his forehead. She demanded to see surveillance footage and notified authorities.
An investigator went in, reviewed video footage, and saw that these allegations were occurring. It's actually using certain implements like a paint stirrer to hit the children, to have some kind of enforcement mechanism. He slammed down on his cot, dragged across the room, things of that nature.
The lawsuit alleges her 2 kids suffered injuries because of the facility's failures.
Staffing ratios are a problem, and based on the report that we have, this was an issue at this facility.
Finney admits these abuse cases have grown since the pandemic.
In the last probably 2 or 3 years, we've definitely seen an uptick in the cases, and most of them are neglect cases.
Amy Robbins with the Children's Advocacy Services of Greater St. Louis gives tips to parents amid a child care crisis. She recommends asking questions and following your gut.
We would hope that most daycare facilities or providers would be giving an update or a report. They should be documenting any incidents that occurred, even if it was by accidental means. Those things should be reported in that center setting, and parents and caregivers should be given that update at least daily. And if it doesn't make sense, ask questions about it.
Now, I did reach out to the daycare center and their attorney. We haven't heard back yet. I'm told this case could continue for another year and a half. And the plaintiffs are looking for pay for unspecified damages.
Now to a developing story in Nebraska where an attack at a rest stop has left a Eureka man dead and his wife in critical condition. Police say Gary and Mary Weaver were in their RV at a rest stop this morning along I-80 near Grand Island when a man attacked them with a knife. Gary Weaver died from his injuries. He was 72 years old. Police later arrested a man from Ohio. They believe he stabbed the Weavers while trying to rob them. A construction worker is recovering after getting trapped in a trench. He was buried up to his chest. This happened about 3 hours ago on Hillcrest Boulevard in Winchester near Baldwin. Firefighters say workers were digging along the side of a house when the trench collapse happened. They freed the man about an hour ago. He's being checked out at a local hospital.
Let's look outside. Live pictures of the beautiful arch. Barely any clouds in the sky, but another hot and humid day. I hate to say it, no relief in sight. Meteorologist Jim Castillo is in for Scott with the weather first forecast. Jim.
Yes, you know, this heat humidity continues and really limited rain chances. But coming up in Maine weather, I'll tell you, when it's looking more likely now that we'll see a few showers and storms for part of the weekend. But currently at Lambert, it is 90 degrees, feels like 91, and that wind was up a little bit. Now it's dying back down. Some of us are lucky enough to be in the 80s right now, but that cooler air is to the north and west where we're seeing a little bit of yellow, and that's that cooler air where there has been some rain. That's not going to reach us. So heat index right now in the low and mid 90s. And again, the weather headlines include that heat and humidity. Heat actually builds to near 100 around the metro Friday and Saturday. And then those rain chances as we get into Saturday night, early Sunday. But right now, guys, that Doppler weather radar is not looking like any rain at this point. Much more in the forecast coming up.
Today is Juneteenth, which celebrates the end of slavery after the Civil War.
The community of Delwood in North St. Louis County is celebrating Juneteenth, and they're doing it in style. The day got started with a parade, and it's ending with fireworks. Our Tracy Hinton has been out there all afternoon and is live to show us what's coming up next.
Alrighty, so on the roller rink behind me, the Dirty Mugs, the band, is setting up. They're going to get going here in just a few minutes, right at about 6:30. Now, when their set is done, that's when the fireworks will go off, and people have lined the roller rink here getting ready for this concert, but it's been a full day up until now.
The day got rolling with a parade.
The parade was awesome. A lot of political promotions or politicking. People walking around. The dance was good. It was a lot of community involved.
Community. That's what this festival is centered around.
We went to the snow cone thing in the gaming truck.
Fun, but of course there was much more than that.
We have a living history walking museum in the inside.
It's inside in the much needed AC that festival goers met an actress portraying Harriet Robson Scott.
So my role today was to talk to anyone about the ordeal that Harriet and Dred Scott went through here in Missouri.
It was the failed court challenge for freedom by the Scotts that spurred on the Civil War, which ended with the emancipation of all slaves in the U.S. But not all slaves were freed after President Lincoln's proclamation.
It was when Gordon Granger came into Texas to remind people that we had already been free. In fact, Abraham Lincoln had freed us 2.5 years before we started celebrating Juneteenth.
And that's why we celebrate June 19th, the day all slaves were finally freed.
We are actually celebrating today because we want children, the next generation, and the next generation to understand that this is where our history began, and this is where we can take our own history in our hands.
The Juneteenth celebration here will wrap up by 9 p.m. In Delwood, I'm Tracy Hinton, 5 on your side.
We're open!
Come on!
Coming up, a new restaurant opening in Delwood, and there's a good chance you could possibly spot an A-list celebrity there.
And speaking of celebrities, the road to the Olympics is once again winding through Baldwin. Diver Tyler Downs reflects on the win that came down to the wire.